In this video, we are going to look at some of the case studies or some of the typical scenarios where we might want to implement SSL VPN. In the first scenario or in the first situation, what we want to do is that we have different departments in our organization, and users from different departments, they want to access different resources from their specific departments. However, they want to use the different IP addresses for those departments. So let's see how they can access those resources and how they can access their own virtual gateways. We can configure multiple virtual gateways on the firewall, and every client, depending upon which department they belong to, they would be accessing their own virtual gateway with its own IP address. So this is what the situation is going to be. On a particular firewall or on our gateway firewall, we are going to configure multiple virtual gateway devices or multiple SSL VPN devices, and each SSL VPN device is going to serve a specific department or users from a specific department. These users are going to log, depending upon which department they belong to, they are going to access the IP address of their particular department, the gateway IP address of the particular department, and then they can access the resources from within their department and they can use those resources. If you look at the configuration, we add a new SSL VPN, we give it a name, for example, Finance SSL VPN, and we are going to use this as exclusive, which means it is going to have its own IP address, which is not going to be shared by anyone else. And here we configure the gateway IP address, and we configure the other parameters which we have already looked at in the previous configurations. For example, the CA certificate, the local certificate, we select all those parameters, and now this virtual gateway is ready for the clients to use it for accessing the internal resources. Similarly, we can also have a multi-tenant SSL VPN scenario. In case of a multi-tenant SSL VPN scenario, this means that different users are going to be using the shared IP address of the firewall, and using that shared IP address of the firewall, they can access their specific firewalls or the specific gateways within that physical firewall. This is a concept where we are configuring multiple virtual firewalls, and you'll look at this concept in detail in one of the next modules or in one of the next videos, which is related to creating virtual firewall context, and there you'll understand it better. However, for the time being, just assume that we have excuse me, that we have multiple virtual firewalls created on the physical firewall, and each of these virtual firewalls are being assigned to different departments or different tenants, different customers, and those firewalls are being managed by those customers individually. However, all those firewalls are actually using a shared IP address, which we call the public firewall system, as you can see in the next slide, in this slide, that we can have the virtual firewall systems, VSys A, VSys B, VSys C, etc. And then we have a public firewall system which is going to be shared by all the virtual firewall systems. So the only difference for us is that in the previous scenarios we were having separate IP addresses or exclusive IP addresses which were being used by different clients. However, here we are going to have the shared IP address, for example 1.1.1.1 here, which is going to be used by all the different clients for accessing the SSL VPN gateways, VSys A and VSys B, etc. The configuration process is going to be like this. We are going to do the virtual system configuration, which is not part of SSL VPN configuration. And as I said earlier, you are going to look at this configuration in one of the later modules. The specific SSL VPN related configuration is going to be done, in which you configured shared gateways or shared IP addresses. These are not going to be exclusive. These are going to be shared IP addresses. Then you configure the services or enable the services. Then the authentication and authorization is done, and then you configure the policies. So let's take a look at the basic configurations. These are the parameters which we are going to use for doing the basic configuration. The common configuration, which is going to be done on the public gateway, we are going to assign a public IP address which is going to be shared by the different virtual gateways. Then we are going to give it a public domain name, and they are going to share this public domain name as well along with the subdomain name. For example, company A is going to be using abc.com/company A, and company B is going to be using the same shared domain name followed by their subdomain name, and then a few other parameters which are fairly simple and self-explanatory, which we are going to be configuring on the different virtual gateways. So let's take a look at this configuration. First of all, we do the public configuration for SSL VPN, in which we configure the public IP address, we configure this is going to be shared IP address, and we configure the shared public domain name. Then we enable the SSL protocols. TLS stands for Transport Layer Security, which is you can say a name for SSL. So these days TLS is the term which we use instead of SSL, but it's essentially SSL VPN. And these are the encryption and hashing algorithms which we are going to use. We are using 56-bit AES or 128-bit AES, whichever we agree upon, whichever we decide. As per our policy, we can use that. And this is the public configuration. Then we are going to configure the shared configuration on different SSL VPN gateways. So we have gateway A, which is going to be using the sharing type, which means that the IP address and the domain name are going to be shared. So this is the IP address which is going to be shared, and this is the domain name, and then the rest of the configuration as we discussed earlier, which is fairly simple and self-explanatory. Then this is for the client authentication. When we configure the client authentication, we are going to client authorization, we are going to configure that what resources the client is allowed to access. As you can see, we can select the resources, and we have selected the resources here. They can use web proxy and network extension, and then what exactly they can use from the web proxy services. So you configure the authorizations for different clients or client groups here, and depending upon the successful authentication, all those resources will be made available to the client. So let's take a look at the third case study or the third scenario, and this is the verification you can done on the client side. If the client can log in successfully, this means that our configuration on the server side is correct. So let's take a look at the third scenario. In the third scenario, this is a typical network extension function in which we enable the client to have a VNIC configured, and then to obtain an IP address of the local area network within the intranet or within our data center. So the client can actually behave, or client can actually access his resources as if it is connected to the local area network in the enterprise network. This is the scenario that the client is going to be assigned an IP address from this trust zone or from this local area network, and then the client can use this IP address to access the resources which are available within your DMZ or within your server pool. The configuration steps are shown here. The basic firewall configuration has to be done, and the SSL VPN configuration. We're going to configure the virtual gateway, and then we have to configure the user authentication. The service we are going to select, this is pretty much similar to what we have already been doing. The difference here is that we are going to select the network extension service and do appropriate configuration for the network extension service. So first of all, let's take a look at the configuration. We create a virtual gateway, we name the gateway, the type is exclusive, we assign the gateway interface and IP address, and then as we configure the local certificate and the client certificate related configuration is done here. Important thing is that we select the service. We select the service to be network extension. We have to select the network extension service, and then we have to do appropriate configurations for the network extension service. For example, we have to select the address pool from which the VNIC of the client is going to be assigned an IP address, and then we select the subnet or the network on which the user can or the client can access the resources. So this is the network where the resources are available, and the client can access these networks or this subnet for accessing the resources according to its requirements. If you look at the client side, on the client side, we have to select the specific client configuration, the certificate which we are going to be sharing with the server, because this is going to be certificate anonymous configuration. So we have to share the client certificate, and once the client certificate has been selected or authenticated, then we start the network extension, which means that the VNIC is going to be assigned, and the VNIC is going to obtain an IP address from the IP address pool which we configured on the server side in the previous step. Once this has been done successfully, then the user will actually be part of the LAN on the server side and can access all the resources as if it is present on the local area network in the data center or in the campus network. This is by using the browser. We can also use Huawei's Seco client, secure client, which can be used for accessing the intranet resources using SSL VPN. Seco client supports SSL VPN, supports L2TP or L2TP over IPsec, but here we are using SSL services. So we configure the client, we assign the IP address, we assign the username and password. We can also assign, if we require, we can also assign, or we can also give the SMS verification code or the token sequence number if we are doing a two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication here. And once this is done, we select the VPN that we have configured here, give the credentials, username, password, and any multi-factor authentication related parameters. And once we try to log in, and if the parameters or if the credentials are correct, we will be allowed access, or we will be connected to the gateway, and will become part of the LAN on the enterprise network or on the campus network. And finally, looking at the fourth scenario, which we call the one-arm networking. Till now, we were using firewall as the SSL VPN gateway. However, we can also use a dedicated SVN 5800 device, which is a dedicated SSL VPN device. So for medium to large size enterprises or large size deployments, we can have a dedicated SSL VPN gateway device here, which can be either be connected to the firewall or to the switch or a router here. And since a single interface is being used for sending and receiving traffic from the network to the SSL VPN gateway, we call this a one-armed networking. The rest of the configuration and the concepts remain the same, except for the connectivity, which is kind of out of path, for which you do not have to make any changes to your existing traffic or existing configuration on the firewall. So these were some of the case studies or some of the scenarios for implementing SSL VPN within our infrastructure. Now let's take a brief look at the troubleshooting scenario. One of the troubleshooting scenarios, there can be multiple troubleshooting scenarios, but we'll take a look at the first one, or the basic one here. So in this troubleshooting scenario, we can see that the issue is that the browser displays, when we try to access the SSL VPN gateway, the browser displays a message indicating that the web user interface cannot be displayed, which means that it cannot access the SSL VPN gateway. The obvious issues could be in the accessibility or reachability, which means that either the server or the gateway is not reachable, which means that there is a problem with the IP routing, or there could be an issue with the IP address configuration on the server side, or there could be an issue with the policy configuration on the server side. So depending upon any of these situations, we should first of all do a ping test. We can do a ping to the server and see whether the reachability is there, available or not, whether we can reach the SSL VPN gateway or not. If that is correct, then we should check the IP address which has been configured on the VPN gateway, whether the correct IP address has been configured. We can check with the gateway or the firewall administrator, and then we can check with the firewall administrators whether the policies are actually allowing this client or this client IP address to access the SSL VPN gateway or access the firewall or not. If any of these situations, if any of these configurations is not correct, then we have to troubleshoot that. We have to remove the issue, and then our client will be able to access the gateway, and then providing the correct username and password, it can log into the client and access the resources that are available in the data center. So this concludes our discussion on SSL VPN using Huawei's Gateway SSL VPN gateway devices. I hope you have developed a good understanding of the concept of the topic, and we'll see you in the next video with a new topic. Thank you.